let's talk about race. At Hofstra Society, I'm waging a war against stupidity. And believe me, the racial subject is probably the biggest source of stupidity in America today or around the world. The first thing you have to understand, and probably the only thing you have to understand, is that there are two realities when it comes to race. There are two worlds. There's the world for white people that are non-Jewish, and then there's the world that everyone else lives in. We have our own little special world, us white people. Now let me explain to you how. If you have Navajos living on a Native American reservation and they want to preserve their culture and live around other Navajos, good for you. They get government money. Here's $1 million from the federal government to help you be a Navajo and to preserve your language and preserve your culture and have Navajo children and to live around other Navajos. Good for you. If you're a black person, there's black communities, planned black communities that exclude non-blacks. They get money from the government. Good for you. You join groups. There are different racial groups. Black Panthers is an extreme one, but there are other ones. I can't think of their name right now. But where you want to raise a black family. There are black colleges that exclude non-blacks, and they get government money. Government money. I thought segregated schools were bad, but okay. Black colleges, there's black communities, there's the NAACP, which gets a seat in high government positions. And again, gets money donated to it from billionaires, gets federal government money. Good for you. If you're Hispanic, there are Hispanic-only communities. There's La Raza, which means the race, which is for the Hispanic race. Sort of mestizo race, or whatever you want to call it, mestizo, or whatever they call them. There's La Raza lawyers, and people join these professional groups, and they're smiled upon by academia. Yeah, join La Raza lawyer group. It's only for Hispanic people. You have to prove your racial purity to join these groups. Wonderful, wonderful. If you're Jewish, there's all kinds of Jewish groups, and you tell your kids only to marry other Jews so you can preserve your heritage and preserve your people. It's wonderful. Wonderful. You have B'nai B'rith, which you have to prove your Jewish ancestry going back several generations on both sides in order to be a member. B'nai B'rith is the parent organization of the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, which fights racism. And they train and advise law enforcement, including the FBI. Wonderful. They're making a difference, you know? You got to keep that racial purity among Jews, right? It's a wonderful thing. I mean, academia considers it wonderful. The government, everyone considers it a wonderful thing. You can drive through most American cities, and there's a Chinatown. It's there only for Chinese people and Chinese culture. And you know what? The federal government has given money, and state governments have given money to Chinatowns to keep them Chinese. Well, we don't want to infringe upon the Chinese character of Chinatown, do we? No, that would harm the rich fabric of diversity that exists in America. Good for you. Now, nobody's going into Chinatown and calling Chinese people racist. Well, you only want to live around other Chinese? Do you think you're superior to everyone else? You're a racist. What, do you hate white people? Is that what it is? Is that what it... Nobody's doing that. Nobody's going onto a Navajo reservation and saying, oh, what do you hate non-Navajos? What are you, racist? You think you're a superior race? Oh, you want to have Navajo babies, do you? Why, because you think they're better? What do you want to kill people in a Holocaust? Nobody says that. Nobody says you join La Raza, which is the race. Oh, that means you hate white people. No, it's all smiled upon. You know, the government, the judges, the nonprofits, the media, it all portrays them in a positive light. They're wonderful organizations. They look out for people. They further the interest of their racial or ethnic group. They preserve the culture. They preserve the racial purity of their groups. And there's another reality, though. If you're a white person and you're not Jewish, you live in a different reality. Everything you say and do is racist. You don't deserve to exist as a human being. You get discriminated against in employment, in school, in government grants, in welfare, in business. You go to the Small Business Administration, see how they treat you. I mean, you're denied every opportunity on the book, and if you just complain about it, that proves that you're a white supremacist. That means you hate everybody on planet Earth, and you want to kill 6 million Jews, and all this nonsense. It's the way the debate and the argument is framed. That's the problem. And what's sad, yeah, and here's the other thing. If there's a white community in Arkansas, some isolated place, there's a school. I've seen articles about this. There will be a school. Okay, let me take a drink. That's all white. Someplace way out in the mountains somewhere. And they'll bust black people and they'll buy houses. Here's $200,000 for buy a couple houses for some black people. Make sure they live in this white neighborhood because it's racist. It's so racist to have a community of white people or to have a school that only has white people in it. We got to teach them about diversity. We got to bring in some black people or some Hispanics and make sure that this white community is no more. And they have things where white parents, they'll have like a separate prom for white people, or they want their children to date other whites. And they'll have, it'll be on national television. It's deeply racist, hateful. And the white people always feel ashamed, like, I guess you're right, I'm racist. I can't believe I told my daughter just to date a white guy. But black people can say, well, I want my daughter to date a black guy. Asian people can say, I want my daughter to date Asian. Jews can say, I want my daughter to date Jewish. Native Americans say, I want my daughter to date another Native American. And it's, you go to liberal colleges, they're like, good for you. Here's $1 million from the federal government to make sure that your daughter dates someone of their own race. Wonderful. That's diversity. So, you're like, what the hell's going on? I've been plunged into homelessness and poverty exclusively due to me being discriminated against in employment, being discriminated against in education, being discriminated against with federal benefits over and over again. I mean, my life can be taken away from me due to my race and my gender, and it's okay. It's okay because I'm a white male. My life doesn't matter, you know? And I go on the internet, and I just try to find white people who think like I do, who just say, look, we shouldn't be discriminated against. We shouldn't be demonized and hated on. We shouldn't be made to feel guilty for being white. We shouldn't have to apologize for being white. And you should be free to have your own community and have your own sense of identity and your own peoplehood. But I go on these websites and I look for people and they're part of the same narrative that is anti-white. They're like, we hate black people. Blacks are so dumb and the Jews are out to get us and everything. I'm like, you don't have to hate other races just to be treated equally. I can't find not anybody, not one person. I mean, occasionally I'll meet people on the street that agree with me. But I mean, at least from the internet or from TV or the radio, I never hear that argument made that maybe we should be treated with the same respect as any other group. And you want to call me a white supremacist? Man, I hate white people. I hate the fact that they're so weak and stupid that they can't stand up for themselves. And I'll give you an example. I saw on YouTube, this was in a college, a major college in the northwestern United States. It was a white or maybe a Jewish guy, but it was a white person, giving a speech that, in 30 years the white race will be extinct or something like that. Like, you know, the demographics are going over a cliff and all the white people, there's a room full of white people, woo, woo, destroy white people. Go and Google Harvard University and about eliminating the white race or Race Trader magazine. And there's all these publications and stuff from Harvard University, MIT, Princeton, all these, you know, University of California, Berkeley, all these major elite universities saying it'll be a good thing to eliminate the white race, and when we eliminate whiteness, the world will be a better place. And all the problems of the world are caused by white people, which is verbatim what the Nazis said about the Jews. This anti-white philosophy, it's the same thing as anti-Semitism, word for word. You just erase Jew and you put white in the place. White people have all the money, they control everything, they control the world, they're oppressing everyone else. They're more successful, but it's only because of racism. And there's so much to this nonsense. Like, if white people on average score better on an SAT than black people, it's because of racism. It must be racism. And it just proves that whites are racist. Now, if Asian people score better on SATs than whites, it just proves that Asians are superior. No matter what the evidence always proves that whites are inferior people, no matter what it is. A white person can score a genius score on an IQ test. It just proves that the IQ test is racist. You know, there's no granting that whites are worth anything. They're fucking garbage in the eyes of the media, in the eyes of academia, in the eyes of people that run our country. And it's mostly white people, and Jews especially, that further this ideology and want to destroy and hate on whites. And it's strange. And if you just speak out against it, you're called a racist. You're a racist. Like, I don't hate anybody. I'm not out to get anybody. I don't have any problem living around other people, but I want to be treated the same as everyone else. I want to have the same respect, the same opportunities. I don't want to be treated like a second-class citizen, or like somehow my race is inferior, or we don't deserve the same benefits that others get. It doesn't make sense. So those are just some things to think about. And if you can't agree with me on that point, I really don't want you in the Prosperity Society. So thank you for your time.